The air above the wetland shimmers with heat rising from dark water and sun-warmed reeds, and for a moment it seems empty, suspended between the slow pulse of dragonflies and the drifting choreography of midges. Then the illusion fractures. A flash of scarlet ignites across the shallows, not as a wandering shape, but as a decisive line, a living projectile that alters direction without warning and arrests its own momentum in mid-flight. The scarlet dragonfly does not pursue like a hound on a scent trail. It calculates like a pilot plotting an intercept course, closing distance not by following where prey has been, but by arriving where prey will be. In this humid corridor of air above water, the dragonfly is less a hunter in motion and more a prediction given wings. Perched on the brittle tip of a reed, its body glows like lacquered metal in the sun. The scarlet coloration, common among mature males of species such as the broad scarlet and related meadowhawks, is not merely ornament, but signal, a territorial banner visible across reflective water. Beneath the pigment lies a chassis refined across more than 300 million years of evolutionary trial. Dragonflies belong to the order Odonata, an ancient lineage whose ancestors once ruled carboniferous skies with wingspans broader than a hawk's. Modern species are smaller, but the fundamental architecture remains. Two pairs of long, narrow wings operating with partial independence, a thorax swollen with flight muscle, and a head dominated by eyes so large they seem to displace the rest of the animal. Nearly the entire sphere of its head is an optical instrument, and it is this apparatus that makes the intercept possible. Each compound eye contains thousands of individual lenses called ommatidia, each sampling a fragment of the visual world. Where our own vision knits together detail through a central fovea, the dragonfly's eye offers a mosaic that prioritizes motion detection and wide coverage over fine resolution. The eyes meet across the top of the head in many species, creating a near-continuous field of view that approaches 360 degrees horizontally. Above, below, behind, the air is mapped in shifting pixels. This is not passive sight, but active tracking. Dragonflies possess specialized neurons tuned to small moving targets against complex backgrounds. When a gnat crosses the visual field, the neural circuitry does not simply register movement. It predicts trajectory, computing a future position based on present velocity. The dragonfly's brain, though compact, performs real-time vector analysis with a precision that aerospace engineers recognize as proportional navigation, the same principle used in guided missiles to converge on a moving target by adjusting course relative to the rate of change in line of sight. The effect in the field is immediate and decisive. A cloud of midges drifts above the water, rising and falling in loose synchrony. One individual breaks slightly from the swarm, a deviation too small for the human eye to notice without deliberate focus. The dragonfly launches. Its wings beat in a staggered rhythm, the forewings and hindwings offset to prevent aerodynamic interference, generating both lift and thrust with remarkable efficiency. Unlike many insects that rely on continuous forward motion to remain aloft, the dragonfly can hover, accelerate, and decelerate within a body length. As it closes on the midge, it does not lock into a straight pursuit. Instead, it angles to a point ahead of the prey, subtly correcting its course so that the line of sight remains constant. To the midge, there is no obvious threat from behind. The predator appears not as a growing shadow, but as a sudden presence at the exact coordinate of escape. The dragonfly's flight control is as critical as its vision. The thorax houses powerful indirect flight muscles attached to the exoskeleton rather than directly to the wings, allowing rapid oscillation. By adjusting the phase and amplitude of wing beats between the front and rear pairs, the insect can generate torque, yaw, and roll. It can brake abruptly by increasing drag, pivot around its center of mass, and re-accelerate in a new direction without the lag that would betray its intention. The legs, often described as forming a basket in flight, are held forward and slightly inward. At the moment of contact, they snap shut around the prey, forming a spined cage that secures the catch even as both insects continue moving through the air. Capture often occurs in less than half a second from launch, the interception so clean that the midge's flight path is simply truncated, edited out of the atmosphere. This method confers a kill advantage rooted not only in speed, but in steering authority. Speed alone would be insufficient in a three-dimensional environment filled with erratic prey. Many flying insects adopt zigzag escape patterns, sudden dives, or spiraling climbs. The dragonfly's response is not to mirror these maneuvers, but to anticipate them. Research has shown that dragonflies adjust their heading to maintain a constant bearing angle relative to their target, meaning they do not chase the prey's tail, but aim for its future position. As long as the angle remains steady, interception is inevitable. The prey is not run down, it is cut off. In evolutionary terms, this is a solution that reduces pursuit time, minimizes energy expenditure, and increases capture success in cluttered airspace, where reaction time is measured in fractions of a second. Energy economics underpin this aerial prowess. Dragonflies are ectothermic, dependent on external heat to elevate muscle temperature to optimal operating levels. On cool mornings, a scarlet dragonfly may bask on a reed, orienting its body to maximize solar absorption. The dark pigments in its thorax and abdomen aid in thermoregulation, absorbing heat that warms flight muscles. Only when a critical temperature threshold is reached does the insect achieve the rapid wing beat frequencies required for agile interception. In this way, the predator's daily schedule is synchronized with the thermal rhythm of the wetland. As sunlight intensifies, prey abundance also increases. Midges and mosquitoes become more active in warm air. The dragonfly's physiology and its hunting window align, an ecological timing that enhances efficiency. The wetland itself functions as both nursery and larder. Dragonflies begin life as aquatic nymphs, ambush predators among submerged vegetation. There, long before they take to the sky, they practice a different form of interception, using an extendable labium to snatch passing tadpoles or insect larvae. When the nymph emerges from the water and metamorphoses into the winged adult, it carries with it a predatory blueprint already refined underwater. The aerial stage is not a departure from predation, but an expansion into a new dimension. The same principles of anticipation and rapid strike persist, now translated into air. Territorial behavior further sharpens these skills. Male scarlet dragonflies often defend stretches of shoreline, patrolling in looping circuits above favored perches. Intruders are confronted not with prolonged combat, but with high-speed chases that test maneuverability. Such encounters serve as both defense and rehearsal, honing flight control that will later be deployed against prey. Even courtship flights demand precision, as males clasp females behind the head in mid-air to form the characteristic wheel position of mating. A miscalculation in speed or angle can disrupt the attempt. Thus, the dragonfly's entire adult existence is an exercise in aerial geometry. Predator and prey co-evolve within this tight feedback loop. Midges may form dense swarms to dilute individual risk, while mosquitoes exploit crepuscular light conditions to reduce visual detection. Yet the dragonfly's compound eyes are sensitive not only to brightness, but to polarization patterns reflected from water, enabling it to orient and hunt, even when glare obscures detail. The insect's visual system can detect flicker frequencies far higher than those perceived by humans, meaning rapid wing beats of prey do not blur into invisibility. Instead, each movement is resolved, tracked, and extrapolated. In this context, the dragonfly's advantage lies in integrating sensory input with mechanical response at extraordinary speed. As the sun declines and air temperature drops, the scarlet flash becomes less frequent. The dragonfly returns to its perch, wings held horizontally, body angled toward the fading light. The wetland resumes a slower rhythm, and the midges drift more freely in the cooling air. Yet the day's events have demonstrated a fundamental truth about this predator. It is not merely fast, it is precise. It does not rely on brute acceleration, but on predictive geometry, on the union of vision and control that transforms open air into a calculated arena. In the layered atmosphere above water, where every trajectory can mean life or death, the scarlet dragonfly reigns not as a reckless pursuer, but as an architect of interception, a living example of how evolution can sculpt speed into strategy and motion into certainty. At first glance, the leaf appears undisturbed, a simple green plane trembling gently in the warm updraft rising from sunlit soil. The air is heavy with the scent of crushed stems and evaporating dew, and along the edges of the foliage small flies move in erratic loops, stitching invisible paths through the afternoon. There is no tension in the scene, no obvious predator announcing itself through vibration or shadow. Yet just beyond the midrib of the leaf, pressed close to its surface, a compact figure waits with deliberate stillness. The jumping spider is not built for pursuit across distance. Its strategy is contained, compressed, and patient, as though all velocity has been folded inward and stored. Unlike web-building spiders that outsource capture to silk, the jumping spider relies on direct engagement. Its body is short and sturdy, legs proportionally thick, the front pair often slightly elevated as if in rehearsal. The most striking feature, however, is the arrangement of its eyes. 4 pairs crown the head, with the anterior median eyes dominating the front like polished lenses. These forward-facing eyes grant acute spatial resolution that rivals vertebrate vision in relative terms. They do not merely detect movement, they discern shape, color, and depth with surprising clarity. Secondary eyes ring the sides of the carapace, extending the field of awareness and alerting the spider to peripheral motion. Together, they create a visual system capable of both surveillance and precision targeting. A small fly settles briefly on the leaf's surface, cleaning its wings with rhythmic strokes of its legs. The jumping spider does not rush. It pivots almost imperceptibly, aligning its body so that the principal eyes lock onto the prey. Internally, a calculation begins. Depth perception in jumping spiders arises from a unique arrangement within the retina, where multiple layers sample slightly different focal planes. By comparing image sharpness across these layers, the spider estimates distance without moving its head. The leaf becomes a 3-dimensional map. Distance is measured not in abstract units, but in muscular potential. The spider inches forward in measured increments, each step slow enough to avoid triggering escape reflexes in the fly, whose compound eyes are tuned to sudden shifts. This stalking phase is essential, not because the spider lacks speed, but because its speed is finite and must be spent wisely. A jumping spider cannot afford a missed leap that ends with it exposed on open ground. Energy reserves in such a small predator are limited, and the risk of injury from an uncontrolled landing is significant. The slow advance allows the spider to refine its geometry. It adjusts the angle of approach, sometimes circling slightly to secure a more direct line that minimizes obstacles. If a twig or vein interrupts the trajectory, the spider recalibrates, repositioning until the path is clear. Each pause is a moment of assessment, as though the predator is rehearsing the leap in silence. When the distance falls within a critical threshold, the spider anchors a thin dragline of silk to the leaf. This thread is not for ensnaring prey, but for safety, a lifeline that prevents catastrophic falls. Beneath the exoskeleton, a different mechanism prepares to fire. Unlike insects that rely solely on muscular contraction for rapid movement, jumping spiders employ hydraulic pressure. By rapidly increasing hemolymph pressure within their legs, they extend them with explosive force, transforming stored fluid tension into acceleration. The body acts as a spring-loaded device, yet the spring is not metal or keratin, but pressurized blood. In the fraction of a second before launch, the spider's posture compresses, legs flexed, abdomen slightly lowered, center of mass aligned with the projected arc. The leap is sudden and decisive. There is no visible wind-up, no dramatic telegraphing of motion. The spider erupts forward in a clean trajectory, covering a distance many times its own body length. Mid-air, it maintains orientation through subtle adjustments, guided by vision that continues to track the target during flight. The fly perceives danger only at the final instant, wings beginning to lift in reflex. It is too late. The spider lands directly upon the thorax, forelegs gripping, fangs driving into a precise point where the exoskeleton is thinner. Venom flows quickly, a cocktail of neurotoxins and enzymes that immobilize and begin the process of digestion. There has been no prolonged chase, no drawn-out contest of stamina. The fatal outcome is compressed into a single explosive action, the culmination of careful measurement. This mode of predation reveals a different expression of speed than that of aerial hunters. It is sprint speed condensed into one irreversible decision. The advantage lies not in sustained velocity, but in accuracy and timing. A misjudged angle would result in a glancing contact, giving the fly a chance to escape. Evolution has favored spiders capable of integrating visual data with mechanical output in near-perfect synchrony. Laboratory studies have demonstrated that jumping spiders can adjust the force of their leap depending on distance, modulating hydraulic pressure to avoid overshooting or undershooting the target. This calibration is learned and refined through experience, suggesting a level of behavioral plasticity uncommon among invertebrates. The surrounding ecosystem shapes this behavior in subtle ways. Jumping spiders are often found in sunlit habitats where visual hunting is feasible. Their reliance on sight means that they are diurnal, active when light conditions allow accurate depth perception. In shaded forests or during overcast conditions, their efficiency declines. Thermoregulation plays a role as well. Being ectothermic, their muscle and hydraulic systems function optimally within a specific temperature range. A cool morning may slow their reflexes, prompting them to bask on exposed surfaces to raise body temperature before hunting. The interplay between environmental heat and predatory performance underscores how tightly physiology is woven into habitat. Predator-prey dynamics extend beyond simple capture. Some flies exhibit erratic flight patterns and rapid takeoffs that challenge the spider's predictive capacity. In response, certain jumping spiders have evolved the ability to approach from angles that exploit blind spots in prey vision. Many insects possess compound eyes with limited rear coverage, and the spider's deliberate circling often positions it outside the most sensitive visual zones. In other cases, the spider may use the texture of the environment as camouflage, blending into bark or leaf litter so effectively that it appears as a harmless protrusion. Its coloration and body shape disrupt outlines, reducing the likelihood of detection during the critical stalking phase. Occasionally, the hunter becomes prey. Larger predators such as wasps or lizards patrol the same foliage. The jumping spider's acute vision again becomes its safeguard. Peripheral eyes detect motion from unexpected directions, triggering rapid retreat or a defensive leap away from danger. In this way, the same hydraulic mechanism that enables attack also ensures escape. Speed is versatile, serving both offense and survival. There is an understated irony in the spider's restraint. It possesses the capacity for sudden violence, yet spends most of its active time moving with almost contemplative slowness. The ecosystem rewards this balance. A reckless leap would waste energy and expose the spider to counterattack. A hesitant predator would miss opportunities. The measured stalk followed by explosive sprint represents a compromise between caution and aggression, an equilibrium shaped by countless interactions across generations. As the afternoon light softens, the leaf trembles again in a faint breeze. The spider, now feeding, remains anchored by its silk line, suspended slightly above the surface. Digestive enzymes liquefy the fly's internal tissues, allowing the spider to consume nutrients efficiently without the need for chewing. The kill was instantaneous in appearance, but the preparation was meticulous. In the layered complexity of this small world, success belongs not to the fastest runner, but to the most accurate sprinter, the one who measures first and commits fully only when the geometry guarantees outcome. The jumping spider embodies a form of precision predation, where speed is not displayed for spectacle, but deployed with surgical intent, transforming a quiet leaf into the stage for one of nature's most compact and decisive hunts. In the late afternoon heat, when the field grasses stand motionless and the air above them ripples in pale waves, the landscape appears almost vacant. Seed heads tremble only when a breeze passes, and among the stems green folds into green until depth becomes difficult to judge. It is within this layered stillness that the praying mantis disappears most completely. Its elongated thorax angles upward like a stem, its abdomen aligned with the vertical rhythm of grass, and its forelegs are raised and folded in a posture that suggests restraint rather than readiness. Nothing about its silhouette advertises speed. The mantis does not roam in search of prey, nor does it patrol the air. It waits, and in waiting it compresses time into a narrow threshold where movement becomes irreversible. The ecology of this field is dense with small interactions. Grasshoppers rasp from hidden perches, flies hover above seed heads, and the occasional butterfly flutters in an erratic path between blossoms. Each movement carries information, and the mantis receives it through a sensory system tuned to subtle change. Its large compound eyes dominate a triangular head capable of rotating nearly 180 degrees, granting an expansive visual survey without shifting the body. Unlike many insects whose eyes are fixed in orientation, the mantis can track motion with deliberate head turns, stabilizing its gaze as though mounted on a pivot. Within those compound eyes lies a region of enhanced acuity that allows for stereoscopic depth perception at close range. This binocular vision, rare among insects, is essential for a predator that must judge distance with precision before committing to a strike. A fly settles briefly on a blade of grass within reach of the mantis. The insect grooms its wings, unaware that it has entered a lethal radius. The mantis remains motionless, forelegs folded in what appears to be patience, but is in fact mechanical preparation. The raptorial legs are specialized instruments, elongated and armed with rows of spines along the femur and tibia. These spines are not decorative projections. They function as interlocking teeth, forming a cage when the leg segments close together. Within the thorax, powerful muscles anchor to reinforced exoskeletal plates, poised to drive the forelegs forward with explosive acceleration. The rest of the body remains anchored by mid and hind legs that distribute weight and stabilize the stance, transforming the mantis into a living tripod with a spring-loaded front. The strike, when it comes, unfolds in a fraction of a second. Studies measuring high-speed footage have recorded foreleg extension and closure occurring in roughly 1/20th of a second, a duration so brief that to the human eye the movement appears instantaneous. The mantis does not lunge its entire body forward. Instead, it projects its forelegs outward in a swift arc, propelled by a combination of muscular contraction and elastic recoil stored in cuticular structures. The tibia snaps against the femur, and the spines interlock around the prey's thorax. The fly's reaction begins only after contact has already occurred. Its wings beat in a frantic blur, but the geometry of the mantis's grip prevents escape. Speed here is not measured in distance covered, but in the narrowing of time between perception and immobilization. Ambush timing defines this form of sprint. The mantis must initiate the strike at the precise moment when prey crosses into effective range. Too early, and the target will veer away before contact. Too late, and the opportunity dissolves. The predator's visual system detects motion trajectories and calculates when the prey's path intersects with the arc of its forelegs. Neural circuits within the mantis integrate depth cues and speed, triggering the motor pattern that unleashes the strike. There is no prolonged pursuit, no adjustment mid-swing. The decision is binary and final. Evolution has refined this mechanism through generations of selection, favoring individuals whose reaction thresholds align with the fleeting windows presented by passing insects. The spines along the forelegs serve a crucial mechanical role once contact is made. They penetrate or wedge against the exoskeleton of the prey, preventing lateral slip. Some species possess additional spines along the inner edges that angle inward, ensuring that any backward movement by the captured insect only tightens the hold. The mantis then draws the prey toward its mandibles, where sharp cutting mouthparts begin to tear into tissue. The initial bite often targets the head or thorax, regions rich in neural and muscular control. Venom is absent. Immobilization relies entirely on mechanical restraint and rapid damage to vital structures. In many cases, the prey's struggle subsides within moments, the fight effectively decided before it registers as danger. The field around the mantis is not merely a backdrop, but a system shaping this strategy. Vegetation density influences strike distance, as open areas require greater reach and precision. In thicker foliage, the mantis may position itself near flower heads where pollinators congregate, exploiting predictable traffic patterns. Coloration and body form contribute to concealment. Some mantises resemble leaves with visible vein patterns. Others mimic flowers, luring pollinators into fatal proximity. This camouflage is not passive. By swaying gently in response to wind, the mantis enhances the illusion of being part of the vegetation, reducing the chance of detection by both prey and its own predators. Thermoregulation subtly governs the tempo of ambush. As ectotherms, mantises depend on ambient heat to elevate muscle performance. In cooler temperatures, their strikes may slow, reducing success rates. Observations reveal that mantises often bask in direct sunlight during morning hours, angling their bodies to maximize surface exposure. As the thoracic muscles warm, reaction times improve, and the probability of successful capture rises. The interplay between sunlight, muscle elasticity, and neural speed illustrates how physiology intertwines with environmental cycles. The predator's daily rhythm follows the arc of the sun as closely as the movements of its prey. Predator-prey relationships extend further. Birds and small mammals patrol the same grasses, scanning for movement. The mantis's stillness becomes its defense. Remaining motionless reduces visual cues that would attract attention. Yet when threatened at close range, the mantis may display a different form of speed, spreading its forelegs and wings in a sudden expansion to appear larger, sometimes revealing bright patterns hidden beneath. This defensive display buys time, startling a predator long enough for the mantis to drop into the grass or take flight. Speed again manifests not as sustained locomotion, but as a rapid transition from concealment to intimidation. There is an element of calculated risk embedded in this ambush lifestyle. The mantis must allow prey to approach within a narrow radius, exposing itself to potential counterattack. Larger insects such as wasps possess stingers that can injure or kill a mantis if the strike is mistimed. The predator's success depends on selecting appropriate targets and executing with flawless timing. This selective predation influences insect communities within the field, regulating populations of flies, moths, and grasshoppers. In turn, the abundance of these prey species affects plant pollination and herbivory rates. The mantis, though solitary and seemingly inconspicuous, participates in a web of interactions that ripple through the ecosystem. As dusk approaches and temperatures fall, activity slows. The mantis may shift position to a sheltered stem, forelegs folding once more into their iconic pose. The field hum diminishes, replaced by the subtle rustle of nocturnal life. The day's hunts have unfolded without spectacle, each one a brief compression of energy and intention. In this predator, sprint speed is distilled into a single decisive motion, a strike that renders escape impossible before awareness fully forms. The mantis embodies a principle distinct from pursuit or interception. It demonstrates that in certain ecological theaters, victory belongs to those who master the moment between stillness and action, who allow the prey's reaction to begin only after the outcome has already been sealed. The air above the late summer meadow vibrates with tension that is almost invisible. Heat rises from sun-baked soil, bending the horizon in faint distortions, and between flowering umbels and coarse grasses, a steady current of insect life moves in intersecting paths. Honeybees drift methodically from blossom to blossom, flies hover in loose spirals, and small butterflies weave erratic courses through shafts of light. Within this layered traffic, a darker shape slices through the brightness with purpose. The wasp does not meander. It enters the airspace like a decision already made. Its body is narrow at the waist, a constriction that gives the abdomen unusual flexibility. Wings beat in a rapid blur, powered by asynchronous flight muscles capable of sustaining high frequencies without direct neural impulses for each contraction. This physiology allows bursts of speed and abrupt directional change, qualities that define the wasp's hunting style. Unlike the patient geometry of an ambush predator, the wasp thrives on motion and escalation. It accelerates, brakes, pivots, and reverses with startling precision, transforming open air into a field of pursuit where hesitation is punished immediately. A small fly lifts from a flower head, its compound eyes scanning for nectar sources and potential mates. For a brief moment it hovers, adjusting its orientation in the warm updraft. The wasp, patrolling just beyond the fly's awareness, alters course. There is no gradual approach. It darts forward in a straight line, then veers slightly to match the fly's path. The speed differential is immediate. Wasps possess strong thoracic muscles and streamlined bodies that reduce drag, allowing them to close distance rapidly. Yet speed alone is not the decisive factor. It is the capacity for sudden reversals and tight turns that prevents prey from stabilizing into predictable flight. The fly reacts with a burst of erratic movement, zigzagging in sharp angles designed to confuse pursuit. Many small insects rely on such unpredictable maneuvers to evade predators whose turning radius is limited. The wasp counters by adjusting wing stroke amplitude and angle, redistributing lift between its fore and hind wings to pivot mid-air. It overshoots slightly, then brakes and swings around in a compact arc. The chase compresses into a series of rapid corrections, each one narrowing the margin of escape. Within seconds, the wasp is within striking range, and the fly's path begins to collapse under pressure. This is where the wasp's anatomy reveals its lethal efficiency. At the tip of the abdomen lies a modified ovipositor, transformed in many species into a sting capable of injecting venom. The sting is not a desperate measure, but a strategic tool. When the wasp lunges and makes contact, it grips the prey with its legs, anchoring itself just long enough to deliver a precise thrust. Venom flows through a channel into the prey's body, targeting the nervous system. In some hunting wasps, the venom induces rapid paralysis, rather than immediate death, immobilizing the insect while preserving it fresh for transport or consumption. The resistance that began as frantic wing beats ceases almost instantly, the prey's muscles silenced by neurotoxins that disrupt synaptic transmission. The meadow's ecology has shaped this strategy over evolutionary time. Many wasps are solitary hunters, provisioning nests with captured insects to feed their larvae. Speed is essential not merely to secure a meal, but to ensure the survival of the next generation. A female wasp must locate prey of appropriate size and nutritional value, subdue it quickly, and transport it back to a concealed nest cavity. The longer the struggle persists, the greater the risk of injury or interference from competitors. Rapid pursuit and swift incapacitation reduce these risks, streamlining the energy budget of reproduction. In some species, the precision of the sting is astonishing. Certain hunting wasps target specific nerve centers, delivering venom in a manner that paralyzes without killing. This allows larvae to consume living but immobilized prey, ensuring freshness and preventing decay. Such behavior underscores a level of anatomical specialization that extends beyond brute force. The wasp's sting apparatus is connected to venom glands, whose composition varies among species, tailored to the physiology of typical prey. Evolution has refined these chemical cocktails to maximize efficiency in the context of ecological niches. Thermal conditions once again influence performance. Wasps, like many insects, are ectothermic, and their flight muscles require adequate warmth for peak output. On cooler mornings, they may bask on sunlit surfaces, vibrating their flight muscles to generate internal heat. Once active, their patrol routes often follow predictable patterns along hedgerows or flower-rich corridors where prey density is high. This spatial awareness is not random wandering, but a learned mapping of resource zones within the landscape. Repeated flights reinforce memory of productive areas, increasing hunting success over time. Predator-prey dynamics in the meadow are complex. While wasps dominate smaller insects, they themselves face threats from birds, spiders, and even other wasps. Speed again serves as defense. The same darting reversals that confound prey can disorient predators attempting to intercept. A bird lunging from a perch may find the wasp has already altered course, its narrow body slipping through foliage in a tight spiral. Agility becomes survival currency in a crowded airspace where multiple hunters overlap. There is also a social dimension in some species. Social wasps operate within colonies where workers coordinate foraging and defense. Rapid response to disturbance can escalate instantly into collective aggression. A perceived threat near the nest triggers alarm pheromones, mobilizing multiple individuals who close distance with synchronized speed. The sudden concentration of stinging bodies overwhelms larger intruders, demonstrating how individual agility scales into group force. In this context, the death sprint becomes not only a chase, but a defensive decision enacted by many. Back in the open meadow, the solitary hunter resumes its patrol. The captured fly, now immobilized, is carried beneath the wasp's body as it navigates toward a concealed burrow in sandy soil. The journey is efficient, the wasp adjusting its load mid-flight to maintain balance. Upon reaching the nest entrance, it descends swiftly and disappears into the darkness, where larvae await nourishment. The ecosystem's quiet surface belies the rapid exchanges unfolding above it. Each dart, each sting, recalibrates population balances among pollinators and herbivores. As the sun lowers and shadows lengthen, the wasp's movements slow slightly, constrained by falling temperatures. Yet the pattern remains. Swift approach, rapid correction, decisive contact. The prey rarely achieves a stable trajectory once targeted. The wasp's strategy is to destabilize, to compress the window between detection and incapacitation so tightly that escape becomes statistically improbable. In the theater of aerial predation, this is speed as weapon, as escalation, as immediate resolution. The meadow returns to a semblance of calm as evening approaches, but the day's pursuits have reshaped its invisible structure. Every rapid chase, every injected sting, has influenced which insects will pollinate, which will lay eggs, which will vanish from the gene pool. The wasp's death sprint is not reckless aggression, but calculated economy, a convergence of muscle, wing, and venom that ensures dominance within its niche. In the charged air above wildflowers, speed is more than movement. It is the decisive act that transforms motion into mortality before the prey can fully comprehend the danger closing in upon it. In the fading warmth of a Mediterranean hillside, where time releases its scent under the weight of evening air and stone walls radiate the last stored heat of the day, a small shape arrives with the sound of a distant mechanism. It does not flutter in the drifting, uncertain manner of most moths. Instead, it holds position in front of a flower, as if suspended by invisible wires, wings beating so rapidly they dissolve into a translucent haze. The hummingbird hawk moth hovers with a precision that feels almost mechanical, its body angled slightly upward, abdomen steady, long proboscis extended into the throat of a blossom without the need to land. In this moment, speed is not aggression, not pursuit, but control refined to the edge of physics. The flowers it visits are narrow and tubular, designed by evolution to reward specific pollinators capable of reaching deep reservoirs of nectar. The moth's proboscis, coiled tightly beneath its head when not in use, unfurls to a length often exceeding that of its own body. It slides into the corolla with delicate accuracy, while the moth remains airborne, adjusting its position with minute shifts of wing stroke and tail angle. The wings beat at frequencies approaching 80 cycles per second, powered by asynchronous flight muscles that contract in response to mechanical stretch rather than direct neural commands for each beat. This system permits extraordinary speed without exhausting neural bandwidth, allowing the insect to sustain hovering flight that would be impossible for many other moths. Hovering is not a static achievement, but a continuous negotiation with gravity and turbulence. Air displaced by each wing stroke curls into vortices that must be managed in real time. High-speed videography reveals that the hummingbird hawk moth rotates its wings through a figure-8 pattern, generating lift on both the downstroke and the upstroke. The body remains remarkably stable even as the wings blur. Subtle adjustments in angle of attack and stroke amplitude correct for microgusts and shifts in the flower's position. The result is an aerial stance so precise that the proboscis can remain inserted in a nectar tube only millimeters wide, while the rest of the body hovers free. This mastery of high-speed control carries profound ecological implications. By feeding without landing, the moth reduces the time spent in vulnerable contact with surfaces where predators may lurk. Spiders often weave webs among flowers, and ambush predators such as crab spiders rely on pollinators that settle onto petals. The hummingbird hawk moth denies them this opportunity. Its hovering approach keeps its body clear of surfaces, limiting points of contact and maintaining readiness for instant retreat. Should a shadow sweep overhead or a bird dart from nearby foliage, the moth can accelerate in any direction without first disengaging from a perch. The surrounding ecosystem responds to this agility. Diurnal birds, including swallows and bee-eaters, patrol the same airspace, scanning for insects in flight. A hovering moth might seem an easy target, suspended and predictable. Yet its rapid wing beats and capacity for sudden lateral movement complicate interception. The moth can shift sideways or backward in a fraction of a second, altering its position before a predator's trajectory converges. This unpredictability, combined with sustained hovering, transforms it into a moving target that resists stabilization within a hunter's line of attack. Speed here is defensive geometry, a strategy that leverages motion to remain elusive. Thermoregulation underpins this performance. As an ectothermic organism, the hummingbird hawk moth depends on environmental heat to prime its flight muscles. In cooler conditions, it may bask briefly, absorbing warmth that elevates thoracic temperature to operational thresholds. Once airborne, the intense activity of wing muscles generates additional metabolic heat, sustaining performance even as evening approaches. The moth's thick thoracic scales provide insulation, conserving warmth during prolonged hovering sessions. This balance between environmental heat gain and internally generated warmth allows it to extend feeding into twilight hours when other pollinators retreat. Unlike many moths that are strictly nocturnal, the hummingbird hawk moth is often active during daylight, navigating landscapes by visual cues as well as olfactory signals. Its compound eyes are adapted to function in bright conditions, and its antennae detect floral scents carried on warm currents. In some regions, these moths undertake seasonal movements, dispersing across continents in response to changing temperatures and flowering cycles. Migration in such a small body demands efficient flight mechanics and energy management. Nectar serves as both immediate fuel and stored reserve, converted into lipids that power long-distance journeys. The same wing beat efficiency that sustains hovering at a single flower supports extended travel across open terrain. There is a subtle reciprocity between moth and plant. Flowers with deep nectar spurs benefit from pollinators capable of reaching their concealed rewards. As the moth hovers and feeds, its body brushes against reproductive structures, transferring pollen from one blossom to the next. The hovering posture ensures contact at consistent angles, enhancing pollination efficiency. In this way, the moth's high-speed control contributes to plant reproductive success, linking aerial agility with genetic exchange in rooted organisms. Predator avoidance extends beyond birds. Dragonflies patrol open spaces, and wasps dart among blossoms seeking prey. The hummingbird hawk moth's sustained hovering allows it to maintain situational awareness. Its head can pivot slightly while feeding, scanning the periphery for motion. At the first hint of approach, it withdraws its proboscis and accelerates away in a direct line before banking sharply into cover. The transition from stationary hover to rapid forward flight occurs seamlessly, an illustration of how fine motor control translates into survival. There is an almost paradoxical quality to its behavior. The moth appears conspicuous, hovering openly in daylight, with a steady hum that advertises its presence. Yet this conspicuousness is offset by agility that frustrates capture. It does not rely on camouflage alone, but on performance, on the capacity to make itself a difficult problem for predators to solve. In a landscape where many insects adopt stillness or cryptic coloration as primary defenses, the hummingbird hawk moth chooses motion. As dusk deepens and shadows stretch across the hillside, the moth's visits become more deliberate. Nectar reserves in flowers diminish, and the air cools. The moth selects blossoms carefully, balancing energy intake against the cost of hovering. Each feeding event represents a calculation in metabolic terms, a trade between expenditure and reward. When night finally settles, the moth withdraws to sheltered vegetation, folding its wings and conserving warmth for the next cycle of activity. In the ecology of speed, the hummingbird hawk moth occupies a distinct niche. It does not pursue prey or deliver lethal strikes. Instead, it demonstrates that high-speed control can be as decisive in survival as any weapon. Hovering without landing reduces ambush risk. Rapid wing beats enable micro-corrections that prevent interception, and agile flight supports migration across shifting landscapes. The meadow and hillside are not static stages, but dynamic arenas where success depends on precision in motion. In this arena, the hummingbird hawk moth reveals that speed, when refined into balance and control, becomes a form of resilience, allowing a fragile body to persist amid a web of watchful eyes and waiting jaws. At the quiet edge of a pond, where cattails lean over dark water and the surface reflects a blurred sky, the world appears divided between two realms. Beneath the surface, submerged stems sway in slow currents, and fish glide through filtered light. Above it, dragonflies patrol and swallows carve arcs through humid air. Between these domains lies a boundary so thin it seems fragile, a membrane that trembles with the slightest disturbance. Across this living mirror, slender figures move with improbable ease. Water striders skate on the surface as though gravity has been partially revoked, their shadows dimpling the skin of the pond, but never breaking it. Here, speed unfolds not through air or across soil, but along a film of tension that most creatures cannot even touch. The physics of their movement begins with surface tension, a property arising from cohesive forces among water molecules. At the interface between water and air, molecules pull inward more strongly than outward, creating a resilient sheet that resists penetration. For most insects, this boundary is a trap. Break it, and they sink, their spiracles flooding. For the water strider, it becomes a roadway. Each of its long, splayed legs is covered in thousands of microscopic hairs known as setae, arranged to trap air and repel water. These hairs are hydrophobic, coated with waxy compounds that prevent wetting. When a strider stands on the pond, the weight of its body is distributed across these elongated limbs, pressing dimples into the surface without rupturing it. The result is a delicate equilibrium, in which the insect's mass is supported by molecular cohesion rather than solid ground. From this improbable platform, acceleration becomes possible. The middle pair of legs, elongated and muscular, function as oars. Rather than pushing straight down, they stroke backward against the water's surface, creating capillary waves that ripple outward in crescents. High-speed imaging reveals that the strider's legs deform the surface into tiny craters, and as they snap back, they generate vortices beneath the interface. The reaction force propels the insect forward in a rapid glide. The motion is neither purely rowing nor skating, but a hybrid exploitation of surface tension and fluid dynamics. In a single stroke, the strider can surge forward several body lengths, leaving behind a pattern of expanding rings that betray its path. Predator and prey interactions on this boundary layer unfold in compressed time. Mosquitoes that attempt to lay eggs may touch down briefly, their legs breaking the surface film. The water strider senses these disturbances through vibrations transmitted across the water. Its legs are not only supports, but sensors, detecting minute ripples caused by struggling insects or falling debris. Specialized mechanoreceptors translate these oscillations into directional information. When a mosquito falters, trapped by surface tension it cannot overcome, the strider pivots sharply toward the source. The pivot itself is a demonstration of control. By adjusting the force of a single leg stroke and shifting body orientation, it can alter direction almost instantaneously, carving angular trajectories across the pond's mirror. In this moment, speed becomes a physics hack. The mosquito's wings beat frantically, but it is partially anchored by the same cohesive forces that support the strider. The water strider, by contrast, remains dry and elevated, its hydrophobic legs minimizing drag. It reaches the struggling insect in a swift glide, forelegs extending to grasp. A sharp rostrum pierces the prey's body, injecting digestive enzymes that liquefy internal tissues. The mosquito's resistance fades quickly, its energy dissipating into the very surface that trapped it. The sprint was not long, nor was it a pursuit across distance. It was a rapid translation of vibration into movement, a closing of space on a surface that punishes the unadapted. The pond ecosystem amplifies these interactions. Fish occasionally rise to snap at insects silhouetted against the sky. The water strider must remain vigilant, for its presence on the surface exposes it to threats from below. When a fish lunges upward, the surface film ruptures in a sudden splash. The strider's response is immediate, a burst of strokes that carries it laterally out of the strike zone. Its ability to accelerate and change direction rapidly reduces the window during which it can be targeted. Some studies suggest that striders adjust their activity patterns based on fish density, favoring calmer edges where predation risk is lower. Thus, their sprinting behavior is embedded within a broader ecological calculus balancing feeding opportunity against mortality risk. Thermoregulation influences performance here as well. Surface temperature of the pond fluctuates with sunlight, affecting both the viscosity of water and the metabolic rate of the insect. Warmer conditions reduce water's viscosity slightly, altering the resistance encountered during strokes. At the same time, elevated temperatures enhance muscle efficiency within the strider's thorax. On cool mornings, movements are slower and less frequent, and the striders may cluster in sunlit patches to warm their bodies. As heat accumulates, their patrol routes expand, and the surface becomes crisscrossed with intersecting trails of ripples. Reproduction introduces another dimension to this surface life. During mating, males grasp females while both remain poised on the water. In some species, males generate deliberate ripples to attract females or deter rivals. These vibrational signals travel efficiently across the interface, turning the pond into an acoustic stage where information spreads in concentric waves. The same sensitivity that detects prey vibrations interprets these social signals, demonstrating how sensory adaptations serve multiple roles within the ecosystem. There is a quiet irony in the strider's dominance of a realm that defeats so many others. For a terrestrial insect, falling onto water is often a fatal misstep. Wings may become saturated, legs trapped by adhesion. Yet for the water strider, the surface is neither barrier nor hazard, but habitat. Its leg hairs, invisible to the naked eye, represent an evolutionary solution at the microscopic scale, transforming molecular cohesion into structural support. The insect's speed is not simply muscular output, but an emergent property of physics and morphology aligned. As evening settles and the pond darkens to a sheet of ink, the striders continue their patrol, silhouettes gliding under the fading light. The air cools, ripples soften, and the chorus of amphibians begins. Beneath them, fish retreat to deeper water, and above them, bats trace arcs in search of airborne insects. The striders remain at the boundary, exploiting a niche that few competitors can occupy. Their sprints leave transient signatures on the surface, expanding circles that dissolve within seconds, yet each burst of motion has altered the balance of life along the pond's edge. In this thin realm between air and water, speed is shaped by tension and buoyancy, rather than wings or legs alone. The water strider demonstrates that acceleration and agility can arise from intimate partnership with physical laws. Surface tension becomes track, leg hairs become flotation devices, and rapid pivots convert vulnerability into advantage. Within the shimmering membrane of the pond, survival belongs to those who can read vibrations, harness cohesion, and move with such swiftness that the water itself seems to cooperate. In the open meadow where tall grasses lean in layered waves and seed heads glow pale gold under late summer light, a circular geometry interrupts the apparent randomness of stems and wind. Suspended between vertical stalks, an orb web stretches with deliberate symmetry, its radial threads converging toward a central hub. At its core rests the wasp spider, its abdomen banded in yellow, black and white, a pattern that mirrors warning colors found elsewhere in the meadow. The web glitters faintly where sunlight catches silk, revealing not just a trap, but a tensioned instrument, calibrated to register the slightest disturbance. The spider itself remains poised head downward, legs extended lightly along signal threads, as though listening to an invisible broadcast transmitted through silk. The web is not a passive net, but a functional extension of the spider's sensory system. Each strand carries vibrations with remarkable efficiency, converting mechanical impact into information. The spiral threads that form the sticky capture zone are coated with adhesive droplets, hygroscopic and elastic, capable of stretching several times their length before snapping. When a flying insect collides with this surface, its momentum is absorbed and redistributed through the radial architecture, preventing catastrophic breakage while entangling the prey. Yet the web alone does not complete the kill. It initiates a countdown. Once ensnared, the prey's frantic movements begin to tear at threads, increasing the probability of escape with each violent twist. The spider's sprint, therefore, is measured against a ticking clock. A grasshopper, misjudging the spacing between stems, strikes the web with force. The impact reverberates outward in concentric pulses along radial lines. At the hub, the wasp spider responds instantly. It does not hesitate to confirm visually what the web has already announced. Instead, it launches along a radial thread, legs moving in coordinated sequence that converts silk into roadway. Unlike ground runners, the spider's sprint is vertical and suspended, guided by pre-existing architecture. The distance from hub to capture zone is short, but the urgency is absolute. Every fraction of a second allows the grasshopper to sever strands with its spiny hind legs. The wasp spider's body is adapted for this rapid intervention. Its legs are long and powerful relative to its mass, enabling swift acceleration along silk without excessive vibration that might further destabilize the web. As it approaches the struggling insect, it begins deploying wrapping silk from spinnerets located at the abdomen's tip. This silk differs from the sticky spiral. It is dry and fine, produced in continuous sheets that can be flung over prey in looping arcs. The spider rotates its body around the trapped insect, using the prey itself as a pivot point. With astonishing speed, it casts silk in successive passes, binding wings and legs before the grasshopper can coordinate an effective counter-thrust. This wrapping behavior illustrates a key principle in web-based predation. Immobilization precedes envenomation. By securing the prey first, the spider reduces risk of injury from kicking limbs or biting mandibles. Once the insect is cocooned in layers of silk, the spider delivers a precise bite, injecting venom that disrupts neural transmission and initiates digestive processes. The struggle subsides quickly, but it is the sprint and wrapping phase that determines success. Studies of orb-weaving spiders reveal that delay in response correlates strongly with escape rates, especially for larger, more powerful insects. The web buys time, but only for a moment. The spider must convert that moment into decisive action. The meadow ecosystem amplifies the stakes of this interaction. Flying insects vary widely in size and strength. Small flies adhere readily to sticky droplets and rarely threaten structural integrity. Larger orthopterans and beetles, however, can generate enough force to tear through capture spirals. The wasp spider's strategy balances web investment against rapid intervention. Building and maintaining an orb web requires significant energy expenditure in silk production, a resource derived from dietary proteins. A destroyed web represents lost investment. Swift wrapping not only secures prey, but preserves the integrity of the trap for future captures. The spider's striking coloration may serve multiple ecological functions. Some researchers propose that the bold bands on the abdomen and the stabilimentum, a zigzag pattern of silk often woven into the web's center, attract prey by reflecting ultraviolet light that insects interpret as floral cues. Others suggest these patterns deter predators such as birds by signaling unpalatability or by breaking up the spider's outline. Regardless of their primary function, these visual elements coexist with the web's mechanical role, embedding the spider's sprint within a broader strategy of deception and deterrence. Thermal conditions influence both web tension and spider performance. Silk elasticity varies with humidity and temperature, affecting how vibrations travel and how strands absorb impact. On warm, dry afternoons, threads may become slightly stiffer, transmitting sharper signals that allow quicker localization of prey. The spider itself, being ectothermic, depends on ambient warmth to optimize muscle speed. During cool mornings, it may remain near the hub, conserving energy until rising temperatures enhance its reaction time. Thus, the timing of its sprints is synchronized with environmental parameters that govern both prey activity and silk mechanics. Predators pose additional challenges. Birds scanning the meadow may spot the spider's bright abdomen, and parasitic wasps occasionally target orb weavers, laying eggs that develop within the host. The spider's agility on silk aids in evasive maneuvers, allowing it to retreat to the web's edge or drop on a safety line when threatened. Even in defense, speed along silk remains its primary currency. The web becomes both hunting ground and escape route, a dual-function structure that integrates predation with survival. There is a certain irony in the web's stillness, contrasted with the spider's explosive motion. To an observer, the orb appears serene, suspended and unmoving in gentle wind. Yet it is an apparatus designed for sudden violence. Each thread is calibrated for elasticity and adhesion, each radial line a conduit for information. When impact occurs, the web transforms from passive architecture into active sensor, summoning the spider in a rush of controlled speed. The sprint is not across open terrain, but along a predetermined path, a race against unraveling silk and diminishing opportunity. As dusk approaches and light fades to amber, the meadow's traffic slows. The wasp spider may consume its secured prey, or, if satiated, wrap and store it at the web's edge for later feeding. Some orb weavers dismantle portions of their web at night, recycling silk proteins by ingesting old strands before constructing anew at dawn. This cyclical rebuilding underscores the delicate balance between resource allocation and hunting success. Every web is both investment and gamble, every sprint a response to chance. In the end, the wasp spider's strategy demonstrates that speed need not precede impact. The web initiates the encounter, but the outcome hinges on rapid response once prey is entangled. Each second that passes without intervention increases the likelihood of escape. By converting silk vibrations into immediate action, the spider compresses that window to near zero. In the layered meadow where wind and wings intersect, survival for the wasp spider depends on mastering the interval between capture and control, transforming fragile threads into a stage for decisive acceleration before the timer runs out. At the edge of a tropical forest, where humid air gathers in the early morning light and vines hang in layered curtains between towering trunks, a vast golden disk stretches across a gap in the understory. It is not immediately visible until the sun rises high enough for its threads to ignite in amber. The web of the golden silk orb weaver spans meters between branches, a tensile architecture suspended above leaf litter and shaded roots. Insects pass through this corridor at speed, dragonflies skimming low, beetles buzzing in straight trajectories, butterflies weaving through shafts of light. Within this open space, velocity is common and constant. The web waits without moving, yet it is designed precisely to intercept that velocity and convert it into signal. The silk itself is extraordinary. Golden silk orb weavers produce dragline threads of remarkable strength and elasticity, capable of absorbing high impact without snapping. The faint yellow tint visible in sunlight is thought to reflect wavelengths that blend with foliage and filtered light, rendering the web less conspicuous to flying insects. Yet invisibility is only part of the design. The web's radial spokes transmit vibration efficiently from any point of impact to the central hub where the spider rests. Each radial line is under calibrated tension, and the spiral capture threads coated with adhesive droplets form a sticky net that deforms upon contact, dissipating kinetic energy across the structure. High above the forest floor, a cicada launches from a nearby trunk, wings beating rapidly as it attempts to clear the understory and reach open canopy. Its trajectory intersects with the golden disk at full flight speed. The collision is sudden and violent, wings tangling in adhesive spirals, legs punching through sticky droplets that stretch and recoil. The cicada's own momentum tightens the threads around its body, pulling adjacent strands inward. In that instant, speed becomes error. The faster the insect was traveling, the more force it transfers into the web, amplifying the vibrational signature that radiates outward along the radial lines. At the center of the web, the spider does not see the impact in the human sense. Instead, it feels a burst of information through its legs. Each tarsus rests lightly upon silk, equipped with mechanoreceptors sensitive to minute oscillations. The pattern of vibration differs depending on the size, mass, and struggle intensity of the captured prey. A small gnat produces a faint, high-frequency tremor. A large cicada generates deep, resonant pulses that ripple across the web's geometry. The spider interprets these signals as a three-dimensional map, triangulating the impact point by comparing amplitude and timing along different spokes. In effect, the web functions as a radial radar array, and the prey's flight speed becomes the energy source for the alarm. The response is immediate. The golden silk orb weaver pivots and launches from the hub, accelerating along a selected radial thread. Its long legs distribute weight carefully to avoid destabilizing the web further. Unlike ground predators that must navigate obstacles, the spider moves along predefined routes, each strand a direct line to the disturbance. The sprint across silk is rapid and decisive, guided by the continuous feedback of vibrations that refine its course. If the cicada thrashes toward one side, the spider adjusts direction mid-run, switching spokes with fluid precision. Upon reaching the prey, the spider does not pause. It begins rapping even as the cicada continues to struggle. Using spinnerets at the abdomen's tip, it releases sheets of fine silk and rotates around the insect in tight arcs. The size of the prey demands efficiency. Cicadas possess powerful legs and thick exoskeletons. A delayed response could allow them to tear through capture threads. The spider's speed reduces this risk. By enveloping wings and legs swiftly, it immobilizes the cicada before structural damage spreads through the web. Only after the prey is sufficiently restrained does the spider deliver a venomous bite, injecting toxins that paralyze and begin external digestion. The forest ecosystem magnifies the importance of this rapid intervention. Large webs represent substantial energy investment. Silk production requires proteins derived from previous meals, and constructing a web of this scale may take hours. A single large insect can offset that cost, providing nutrition sufficient for days or weeks. Conversely, a failed capture that destroys significant portions of the web can impose energetic debt. The spider's sprint is therefore not simply a reaction to prey, but a protective measure safeguarding its architectural investment. Environmental conditions influence both web performance and response speed. In humid air, adhesive droplets remain pliable and effective, enhancing capture efficiency. During heavy rain or strong wind, the spider may retreat to shelter, allowing the web to absorb environmental stress without risking injury. Temperature affects muscle performance as well. In the warmth of midday, reaction times shorten and silk elasticity shifts subtly, optimizing both detection and response. The spider's life is synchronized with cycles of light and moisture that govern insect flight patterns in the forest understory. Predator avoidance intersects with these dynamics. Birds navigating between trunks may inadvertently brush against webs, and some species learn to recognize and avoid the golden glint of silk. The spider's coloration, often a mix of gold, brown, and silver, blends with dappled light, reducing visibility to predators. When threatened, the spider may drop from the web on a dragline, leaving the structure intact and climbing back once danger passes. Even here, speed along silk defines survival, allowing rapid retreat without abandoning its hunting platform. There is a certain elegance in how the spider converts the prey's own speed into advantage. The faster the insect flies, the stronger the vibrational signal transmitted. In a sense, the cicada announces its arrival with a burst of kinetic energy that guides the spider directly to it. This inversion of advantage reveals a broader principle in ecological systems. Traits that confer benefit in one context may become liability in another. High flight speed aids cicadas in evading aerial predators, yet within the confines of a nearly invisible web, that speed ensures a deeper entanglement and louder alarm. As afternoon light filters through leaves, other insects meet similar fates. A dragonfly clips the web and tears free, leaving a damaged section that the spider later repairs by ingesting broken strands and respinning them. A beetle becomes trapped at the web's periphery, and the spider's sprint once again translates vibration into motion. Each event reinforces the interplay between architecture and agility. The web alone cannot guarantee success. It requires the spider's rapid traversal to complete the sequence. By evening, the golden disc glows faintly against darkening foliage. The spider may consume one captured insect and leave another wrapped for later feeding, a larder suspended in silk. The forest continues its layered hum, yet within this suspended arena, the transformation of flight into fatal miscalculation has occurred multiple times. The golden silk orb weaver demonstrates that speed need not originate from the predator. It can be harvested from the prey, amplified through tensile strands, and converted into precise acceleration across silk. In this luminous web strung between trees, Velocity is not merely intercepted. It is translated into signal, response, and inevitability, ensuring that every rapid wing beat carries within it the possibility of instant consequence. Night settles over the desert with a precision that feels deliberate. Heat stored in sand and stone radiates upward into cooling air, and the harsh glare of day dissolves into gradients of indigo and silver. The surface appears barren at first glance, a quiet expanse broken only by scattered shrubs and fractured rock. Yet beneath this apparent stillness, a different tempo emerges. Minute vibrations travel through grains of sand as beetles forage. Crickets probe for shelter, and small rodents trace cautious arcs between shadows. In this low-light arena, vision is secondary. The ground itself becomes a conduit for information. From the base of a rock outcrop, a black scorpion waits with forelegs extended, body low, tail arched but unmoving. Its stillness is not passivity, it is calibration. The scorpion's anatomy is built for night detection. Along its legs are slit sensilla, microscopic vibration sensors embedded within the cuticle. These structures respond to substrate-borne oscillations with extraordinary sensitivity, capable of detecting minute disturbances transmitted through sand. Unlike predators that rely on sight or scent to locate prey at distance, the scorpion constructs a map from ripples in the ground. Each leg functions as a directional antenna. When a beetle's steps compress sand grains, the resulting wavefront spreads outward. The scorpion's nervous system compares arrival times and intensities across multiple legs, triangulating the source with remarkable accuracy. In darkness, where shadows conceal motion, the desert floor becomes a resonant field that reveals what eyes cannot. A darkling beetle crosses the sand within a meter of the scorpion's position, its feet drumming softly in rhythmic sequence. The scorpion's posture shifts almost imperceptibly. It angles its body toward the incoming signal, pincers slightly parted. There is no gradual pursuit, no extended chase across terrain. The predator waits until the beetle enters a critical radius. Within this zone, reaction time determines outcome. When the vibrations peak and the source is confirmed within reach, the scorpion launches forward in a short, decisive rush. Its movement is swift but measured, covering only the necessary distance to bring the beetle within grasp. The clamp comes first. The scorpion's pedipalps, enlarged into powerful pincers, snap shut around the beetle's thorax. These appendages are not merely grasping tools, but instruments of force. Some species exhibit stronger pincers and less potent venom, relying primarily on mechanical restraint. Others possess slender pincers paired with highly toxic venom, balancing grip with chemical potency. The black scorpion in this desert employs both. The clamp immobilizes the beetle's legs, preventing immediate escape. If resistance persists, the tail arcs forward in a rapid motion driven by abdominal muscles, delivering a sting that penetrates the prey's exoskeleton. Venom composition varies among species, but generally includes neurotoxins that disrupt ion channels in nerve membranes. For small arthropod prey, the effect is swift paralysis. The beetle's struggle, vigorous for an instant, collapses into tremor, and then stillness. The entire sequence unfolds in seconds. The scorpion does not expend energy on extended pursuit. Its strategy is to compress the encounter into a single rush, a single clamp, and if necessary, a single injection. The brevity of this death sprint reduces exposure to larger predators that might detect movement in the sand. The desert ecosystem shapes this efficiency. Nocturnal life must balance feeding with vulnerability. Owls patrol silently above, their hearing acute enough to detect faint rustles. Small mammals such as gerbils and foxes move in calculated arcs, searching for invertebrates beneath the surface. For the scorpion, lingering in open space increases risk. By limiting movement to short, targeted bursts triggered by vibration cues, it minimizes the time spent exposed. Its dark exoskeleton blends with shadowed ground, and during daylight it retreats to burrows or beneath stones, where temperature and humidity remain more stable. Thermoregulation in the desert is critical. During daytime extremes, surface temperatures can exceed tolerable limits for many arthropods. The scorpion's nocturnal activity avoids thermal stress while aligning with the active period of many prey species. Within burrows, microclimates provide moderated conditions, reducing water loss and conserving energy. The exoskeleton itself limits evaporation, and metabolic rates at night are tuned to cooler temperatures that support muscle efficiency without overheating. Beyond prey capture, vibration sensing also informs defensive behavior. If a larger disturbance approaches, such as the thud of a mammal's foot, the scorpion may freeze or retreat rather than attack. Its response thresholds are tuned to frequency and amplitude patterns, characteristic of prey versus predator. This discrimination prevents unnecessary stinging, which would waste venom that requires time and metabolic resources to replenish. Venom production is energetically costly, and selective use reflects evolutionary pressure to optimize expenditure. Reproduction introduces another layer of behavioral nuance. During mating season, males engage in a promenade where partners clasp pincers and move in coordinated steps across substrate. Even in this context, vibration sensitivity remains acute, allowing rapid reaction to external threats. The desert floor becomes both dance floor and alarm system, transmitting information essential for survival and continuation of the species. There is a stark efficiency in the scorpion's predatory method. Unlike aerial hunters whose pursuits carve visible arcs through space, the scorpion's sprint is nearly invisible until the moment of contact. Its rush is grounded, guided by waves traveling through sand grains rather than light or air. This reliance on substrate-borne cues reflects deep evolutionary adaptation to an environment where visibility is limited and temperature extremes restrict daytime activity. The scorpion's body plan, largely unchanged for hundreds of millions of years, speaks to the enduring success of this strategy. As night deepens and stars sharpen above the desert, the scorpion consumes its prey, digestive enzymes breaking down tissues externally before ingestion. Energy extracted from the beetle will sustain it through hours of waiting for the next signal. Around it, the desert remains in motion, a network of faint vibrations intersecting beneath the surface. Each ripple carries potential, and the scorpion remains poised to interpret them. Its death sprint is neither spectacle nor prolonged chase. It is a calculation executed at close range, a convergence of sensory precision and muscular speed that collapses struggle into silence almost before it begins. In this austere landscape, survival belongs to those who can read the ground and respond without hesitation. The black scorpion embodies a form of speed defined not by distance traveled, but by reaction and positioning. One rush, one clamp, one sting if required, and the desert returns to quiet. The night offers no applause, only the subtle continuation of life shaped by encounters measured in vibrations and resolved in seconds. Morning light spills across a temperate meadow, catching on dew that clings to clover leaves and bending grasses into arcs of silver. The air is still cool, and aphids cluster along tender stems, their soft bodies pressed in tight groups as they siphon plant sap. Among them moves a small dome of polished red marked with black spots, a form so familiar it often escapes serious attention. The ladybug, rounded and compact, appears almost ornamental against the green. Yet beneath its glossy wing covers lies a suite of responses tuned precisely to a world where survival is measured in fractions of seconds. At first glance, the ladybug seems unhurried. It climbs deliberately along a stem, antennae probing, mandibles poised. Its role as predator is well documented. Aphids are abundant, nutrient-rich prey, and the ladybug's appetite is substantial. An adult can consume dozens in a single day, contributing significantly to the regulation of plant-feeding insect populations. This predatory capacity shapes agricultural ecosystems, where ladybugs are welcomed as biological control agents. Yet even while feeding, the insect remains exposed. Its bright coloration advertises chemical defenses, but warning signals are meaningful only if predators have learned to interpret them. A small insectivorous bird flits through the meadow canopy, scanning for movement. To such a hunter, motion is often more conspicuous than color. The ladybug's dome reflects sunlight, and its slow progress along the stem may attract attention. When shadow sweeps across the plant, the ladybug responds not with panic, but with sequence. First, it pauses, legs tightening against the substrate. If the disturbance intensifies, it may release its grip and drop, folding legs inward to tumble into the vegetation below. This reflexive drop is one expression of speed in survival, gravity as escape route, executed before the predator's beak can close. If landing does not provide concealment, the ladybug transitions to rapid crawling. Its 6 legs, though short, can coordinate in swift alternating patterns that propel it across leaf surfaces faster than its rounded form suggests. The dome shape reduces snagging against irregular surfaces, allowing smoother passage through foliage. Quick directional changes help it navigate toward denser cover, where visual detection decreases. For a predator relying on precise pecking or grasping, the unpredictability of this movement complicates capture. Flight adds another layer to this repertoire. Beneath the hardened elytra that give the ladybug its polished appearance, lie delicate hind wings folded in intricate pleats. When threatened, the insect performs a rapid sequence. Elytra lift outward, hind wings unfold in a fraction of a second, and powerful flight muscles engage. The takeoff is abrupt, a vertical surge that carries the ladybug away from immediate danger. Studies of wing deployment reveal remarkable mechanical efficiency. The folding pattern allows the wings to expand rapidly without tangling, and elastic cuticular elements assist in the unfolding process. This quick launch reduces the window during which a predator can adjust trajectory. Chemical defense complements physical escape. When grasped or severely disturbed, the ladybug can exude hemolymph from joints in its legs, a behavior known as reflex bleeding. The fluid contains alkaloid compounds that taste bitter and can be toxic to small vertebrates. The bright red and black coloration serves as aposematic signaling, a visual cue advertising this unpleasant consequence. However, chemical defense alone does not guarantee survival. It buys time, creating hesitation or rejection in a predator's response. During that hesitation, speed in crawling or flight becomes decisive. The integration of warning color, toxin, and rapid movement illustrates how multiple strategies converge to prevent mortality. The meadow ecosystem reinforces this interplay. Aphid populations can surge rapidly under favorable conditions, attracting not only ladybugs, but also parasitic wasps and predatory flies. Competition for resources means that ladybugs must move efficiently between clusters, often taking short flights to new plants. These movements are not random dispersal, but targeted relocations informed by chemical cues emitted by damaged plants or by aphids themselves. The ability to take off quickly allows exploitation of ephemeral food patches while minimizing exposure. Thermoregulation influences flight readiness. As ectotherms, ladybugs require sufficient thoracic temperature for sustained flight muscle activity. On cool mornings, they may bask, orienting their dark spotted surfaces toward the sun to absorb heat. The black spots enhance absorption by increasing localized warming. Once warmed, muscle performance improves, enabling faster takeoff and more controlled flight. Seasonal behavior also reflects this thermal dependency. In colder climates, many ladybugs aggregate in sheltered sites during winter, entering a state of diapause to conserve energy. When spring temperatures rise, synchronized dispersal occurs, each individual launching into the warming air to locate feeding grounds. Predator avoidance extends beyond birds. Spiders, frogs, and even larger insects may attempt capture. Against a spider's web, rapid wing deployment can mean the difference between entanglement and escape. Against a mantis, sudden flight can disrupt the timing of a strike. In each scenario, the ladybug's speed serves as interruption, breaking the predator's sequence before it can complete its own. There is subtle irony in the ladybug's dual identity. It is both hunter and hunted, both regulator of aphid populations and potential meal for larger animals. Its speed is not singularly aligned with aggression or escape, but oscillates between the two. When feeding among aphids, it may accelerate toward a dense cluster, mandibles slicing through soft bodies with efficiency. When threatened, the same musculature powers retreat. Insect ecosystems operate under constant pressure, where roles shift depending on context. As midday warmth saturates the meadow, the ladybug lifts once more from a leaf edge, wings beating with a faint hum as it crosses to another plant. Below, aphids continue their quiet extraction of sap, and above, swallows carve arcs through open sky. The ladybug's bright dome flashes briefly before settling into new greenery. Its presence influences plant health and predator diets alike, a small node in a network of interactions driven by motion and timing. The broader message of this meadow becomes clear through such encounters. Speed in insect ecosystems is rarely ornamental. It either secures a meal or averts becoming one. In the ladybug, that speed is multifaceted. A quick drop, a rapid crawl, an explosive takeoff, a chemical deterrent that extends the margin for escape. Each element evolved under selective pressures that reward those capable of responding within narrow temporal windows. Survival is less about dominance than about timing. As evening approaches and light softens across clover and grass, the ladybug settles beneath a leaf, wings folded neatly under protective covers. The meadow quiets, yet the cycle of pursuit and evasion continues unseen. The ladybug's day has woven through both sides of that equation, demonstrating that in this intricate world, velocity is a universal currency. It may kill swiftly or prevent killing altogether. Often, it does both within the span of a single sunlit hour.